Hi, and welcome to my latest blind tasting video. Tonight is a little bit different. I've got 7 Japanese blended whiskies, and my wife will randomly pick 3 of them and place them into these 3 special Glencairn glasses. Onto the whiskey. Right, so my wife has randomly picked 3 of the 7 Japanese whiskies. She's poured them into each of these Glencairn glasses, and she's labelled each of the bottles to correspond with each of the glasses. She's placed the sample bottles in this box here, so I can reveal later what they are. But before I do that, I'm going to nose and taste each whiskey and tell you a bit about what I pick up on them and which are my most and least favourites. Once I've done that, I will reveal which of the 3 whiskies they are. I'll then do a little bit of research on those 3 whiskies and see if I can try and work out, based on what I picked up versus what each of those whiskies flavour profile is like, I'll try and work out which is which. I don't know how this is going to go, so let's get on to the whiskey. So, first one. Right, all of these are blended Japanese whiskies. Some of them are a blend of just malt whiskies, some are a blend of malt and grain whiskies, and some of them I think are just grain whiskies. This one has got a strong sort of alcohol vapour, which is what I normally pick up on grain whiskies. It doesn't smell too strong. My guess is that's probably not a high strength whiskey, probably not more than about 43%. I'm picking up a hint of vanilla, a hint of cereal. But there's no complexity to this one at all. Quite a simple smelling whiskey. So on to the second one. Right, this one I'm definitely picking up a malt character, a toffee caramel. This one's got more body to it, much sweeter. There's no alcohol vapour. That's a much nicer whiskey on the nose. On to the last one. Right, this one's quite sweet on the nose as well. There's a cereal malty sort of nose to it. There's a hint of cinnamon. Hint of baking spices. But mostly toffee, caramel, sort of almost like a bit like flapjack. I quite like that one. So, onto the tasting. Let's try the first one. At first, it's got like a hint of vinegar. It's that sort of sourness, but then it goes to a nice, warming, sweet, simple cereal whiskey. It's definitely a grain whiskey. I'm not sure if there's any malt blended in with that as well, but it's quite a thin liquid. It's very simple on the palate. finish is quite short, but after the second one, the finish starts to build. There's a slight hint of sort of white pepper. It doesn't have much character, this one. There's a hint of orchard fruits, or almost like a sour apple on the palate with that one. It's not a memorable whiskey, that one. Just going to have a bit of water and move on to the next one. Right, so this one was quite sweet, quite malty. Let's try it. Right, this one, it's quite thin and simple on the tongue, but then it develops a slightly peaty, smoky texture to it. It's definitely malted barley in there. I'm getting a hint of toffee and caramel, but it's quite light, nowhere near as sweet on the palate as it is on the nose. There's definitely a hint of peat there. It's a much more satisfying whiskey than the first one. It has some character. It's not overly complex. It's quite it's quite simple, but pleasant. It's got enough character to enjoy. The finish is probably a medium. There's a nice light spiced finish to it, which builds over time, but it doesn't have any sour or unpleasant notes like the first one. It's quite a contrast. So I'm going to have some water and let's move on to the last. Right, so on to the last one. It's much sweeter on the nose. Lovely toffee caramel fudge. A hint of cinnamon. It's really nice on the nose. Much more pleasant on the palate, with more viscosity to it. It's creamy, it's smooth, feels like it has a bit more character. There's definitely no peat like the middle one. Definitely taste malted barley in that. I'm not sure if it's blended at all with any grain whiskey. Possibly, but it doesn't have that grainy character which you get with non-barley whiskies. The Japanese, in some of the whiskies I've got in my selection, there is a blend of malted whiskies, some of which are made in a pot still and some are made in a continuous coffee still. So even though they're made like a grain whiskey, some of the process still uses all malted barley. Right, so I've got to decide which are my favourite. So in order of preference, I would say I think I prefer the one with a hint of peat. The fact that I prefer generally sweeter whiskies, the one on the end is a nice sipping whiskey. The one in the middle has that hint of character to it, which is it's a little bit more complex and stands out for me. The first one definitely isn't going to win anything from me. So first, second and third. So I'm going to reveal what they are. I'm going to then have a quick read of the flavour profiles and see if I can actually work out which is which from what I taste. Let's see what we've got. So we've got the Golden Horse Bushu on the left, on my left. We've got the Taketsuru Pure Malt, and we've got the Hibiki Japanese Harmony. So I could have a stab at which I think's which, just looking at them, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to have a quick read of their flavour profiles. I'll be back in a second. Right, so I've just had a little read up on the flavour profiles of each of these whiskies. They're all 43%, and my gut reaction was right. Whether or not I am right when I guessed them is another matter. But I think that the first one is the Golden Horse Bushu. I think the second one is the Taketsuru Pure Malt, and I think the last one is the Hibiki Harmony. So am I right? This one, number one, does it match? No. That's number three. Right, so this one is number two. Am I right with this one? Yes, I'm right with that one. That says number two as well. So this one must be this one. 1 out of 3 right. I think I'll go back to my favourite, which I got right. And here's to more trying to get it right next time. Slauncher.
I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, why not give it a like or a comment, and please consider subscribing for more videos like this.